Well, hey guys, it's been a while since I've made a video, and every time I want to make something about a certain topic, someone else kind of mentions it and talks about it, and I sort of can't be bothered doing anything. So, that said, I feel like I do want to get some things out of my chest because it's been a while since I talked about anything. It's been a while since I talked about what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in the war, or just things in general that are happening in society. So I'll just make one kind of off the cuff for whoever's listening out there to me, and just talk about the current events, what I think is going on with the whole Trump and Zelensky saga, and where I think things will go. So I guess the most blatantly obvious thing to talk about would be what's happening with Ukraine and the total pivot, or seemingly the total pivot, that America is doing. Now, why I think I'm still optimistically cautious with the whole thing is that it still is in the best interest of America to see Russia weaken. If they could have, if they had a magic button they could push and have Ukraine win the war tomorrow, I think they would still go for it. Because at this point, the American interests line up against China, competing against China. And Russia has been pushed so far towards China that it's almost close to impossible, at least in the very near future, it is impossible for that relationship to be kind of clawed back um, by America, by anyone in the West for that matter. So the Europe seems to have completely just abandoned Russia. America's sort of trying to make an attempt to build the relationship back up again to serve its own purposes, which is fine. And for the Americans out there, this would actually be a great thing. It would actually be an ideal thing if America also didn't want to start a war with China, that they simply work together as one of the great powers, like as I said they want to. And then it will be Russia, America, China, India coming up as well, and everyone would trade, work together, build themselves up, maybe throw Europe under the bus, but who cares about them? And that would be great because there won't be wars. Uh, sure, America won't be as powerful, perhaps. It all depends what they do, but they also won't be as powerful if things keep going the way they are. If there's like some massive conflict, for example, which is what Zelensky has wanted from the beginning of the conflict. They wanted America to jump in, they wanted Europe to jump in. It's nothing new, it's just that now what's happening is it's been exposed because of the pivot. Let's assume that the pivot is genuine. Let's assume that America really wants to, end the war, create peace, and build back the relationship up with Russia to strengthen its own hand and to kind of put a wedge maybe between Russia and China a little bit. Um, Maybe they've realized they can't actually win the war without actually, even if they went all in, even if they sent troops over there, they probably couldn't win. But sending troops is obviously a instant fail because that would ultimately weaken them significantly against China if they did that. So that's why they're going to avoid it at all costs. Europe going over there and fighting, maybe they'll allow, but America, I don't see America going into Russia because again, America going into Russia is what China would want. That's what China wants. And let's say like a worst case scenario, let's say Russia starts to lose the war and America, I guess, starts to go into Moscow or something like that. It's very possible that China could just take a part of eastern Russia as well for themselves. So that would strengthen China significantly if that kind of scenario happened, which I think is very unlikely. But you know, if that kind of war broke out, America versus Russia, yeah, America, Russia grinding each other out while China just gets all the resources, gets whatever they want, and ultimately comes out of it. Just like America came out of World War II as the world hegemon, China will come out of a war between America and Russia as the world hegemon as well, I believe. And that's what America wants to avoid. And that's what a lot of people can't see. You see all those liberals, for whatever reason, at some point in their life, we went from being anti-war to, yeah, pump more weapons into Ukraine. Let's have World War Three. We have to have World War Three. We have to fight. I don't know what happened. I remember liberals being very anti-war. I remember even back when I was young, people resisting. So I went to like TAFE, which is like a tertiary education in Australia, and I remember being part of this committee, and the people were against the army sort of going into the TAFE and recruiting people. People on the left were very, very anti that kind of thing, whereas now we have almost leftists wanting conscription, wanting I guess anyone but not them to go over and fight in Ukraine, which is also the opinion of Ukrainians, it seems like, because there's a lot of videos coming out showing Ukrainians in the West who are very adamant about the war continuing but unwilling to go and fight the war themselves. So who've actually escaped, but still want the war to go on. It's fine if you escape, that you're like, fuck, I think this should stop. And I think there's a lot of Ukrainians that are like that, especially Russian speaking ethnic Russian Ukrainians there who don't want the war to go on. They sort of want to have ideally they want even their cities to be liberated by Russia, if they had that option. That's definitely the case, and now it's all just coming out. Like, it's nothing new. We all knew about this throughout history. We all knew. I mentioned so many times that sooner or later everyone is going to get over Ukrainians' bullshit. They're going to get over their arrogance and their ignorance and their cruelty as well. I think that's probably the next thing that will start leaking through. So we've got the arrogance has started leaking through, the ignorance has started leaking through. So next thing they got to show, that America needs to show, if they want to kind of push the propaganda, is they have to show the cruelty. They have to show the war crimes that we all know about. That's the next kind of logical step to expose them. Why I'm a bit cautious is because America hasn't done all the things that they could do. So I think Musk recently came out and said they're adamantly not going to turn off Starlink in this war. So if America wants to really put the pressure on Ukraine, it needs to put the pressure on Ukraine. Like, it really has to put the pressure. They have no other option. Now I guess they have to gauge what level of pressure they want to put on them without seeming too much like they threw the ally under the bus or something like that. So there is definitely a orchestrated pushback against them. There's a lot of people on Reddit specifically who obviously that kind of NATO crowd who are not happy with what's going on. People who voted for Trump are not happy with what's going on. People on the left also, some of them also very happy with what's going on, who are still, congruently anti-war and have been throughout this whole ordeal, and even before then with Iraq, with Obama, for example, going into Libya and things like this, who kind of maintained their core principles and didn't care about the left, right, who's in charge, didn't have any derangement syndrome about any particular president. They simply had their core values, and whoever was working with those core values and promoting them, that's the person they would support. And that's the intelligent kind of position that you should take. Not that it really, I don't believe it matters in America, at least, who's in charge. I just think that the agenda was going to change either way. It's just they put Trump was a good vehicle, is a good vehicle for the agenda, but I think they were going to change that anyway. Like, they realized they made this huge mistake, and I think there's like a video, I'll probably played it, I don't know if I played it before, but there's a video out there with like Biden literally saying that Putin approached him and said, hey, look buddy, if you keep pushing us away, we're going to have no choice but to go closer to Russia. And Biden jokingly said, well, yeah, you go ahead and make friends make friends with China, and then after that, why don't you become friends with Iran as well? Like, as he's like, well, who are these like weaklings? China, who's that? Iran, who's that? Go ahead and be friends with them. We don't care. And how that clip just shows the massive mistake America has made. They could have been good buddies with Russia. They could have had Russia line with against China, because Russia does share a precarious border with China. So and certainly Russia was never an enemy or threat to America. No, it's China, by the way. Like all these countries are pretty like far away from America. So America's solid. America always has been fine on its own. It doesn't have any kind of natural enemies. Just acts that way to create chaos and kind of boost itself up, and like that's America's thing. Just the I have nothing against America like doing that. America's just being America, like typically. What's annoying is that people don't realize what's happening. They kind of like forgot, I don't know, the last 100 or so years of like America being America and what they do and like acting the same way, and I don't know. It's just weird that people don't see or choose to forget the reality, the history of the situation. But anyway, let's talk about, I guess, tariffs a little bit, because that's the other thing kind of Trump is doing. And you see countries like Canada that completely taking out bourbon from the liquor stores. That's the kind of like visual thing they're putting out there. Now I looked up the trade deficit between Canada and America, and the trade deficit is obviously in Canada's favor, which is why I think Trump is doing that. I think it's like $65 billion or something like that. So what that means is, if you completely cut out all trade, if like America and Canada, they just decide, well, we're not gonna like buy or sell each other's products anymore, that's it. Like that's the ultimate tariff, I guess. Like basically a boycott on each other's products. Well, in that scenario, America is going to come out on top, because the trade deficit is in Canada's favor, which is why Trump is doing the tariffs. Now, of course, it's much more complex than that. There's a lot of like moving parts and offshoots, but in general, the tariffs will help America. What other people are saying, look, it's a dirty way to do business, but if your production is in the shitter, because that's what happens if you have a trade deficit. You're buying stuff from other people. That means you're not even producing things yourself. If that's what's going on, if you're losing all the value of your currency by all this outflow of currency to another country, then a tariff will actually kind of work. Like, yes, it's not libertarian, it's not free market and things like this, but and you're of course at risk of the other country doing tariffs against you as well, which is what other countries are doing, which is what Canada is doing. But again, that kind of like depending on how solid Trump is with his stance on the tariffs and things like this, like the ultimate thing it will lead to is just both countries cutting off trade completely. And again, if that happens, like America will benefit, but it will create some short to long term pain, short to medium term pain for the people, because they will need to find replacements for the things they buy from Canada. So all those things will go up in price, but it will also create opportunity. It'll create an opportunity perhaps to buy these things from other countries as well. That's an option, but they'll also create an opportunity for those things to be produced in America. The things that can be produced, I'm sure there's like certain things that can't be, maybe maple syrup, I guess. I don't know what else Canada makes. I think it sells a lot of energy, but I think America has a lot of energy as well, to sell to itself. Yeah, I didn't look like really closely into it, but I sort of have a feeling that Trump more or less had looked into it and understands the consequences and things like this, and I think he'd be fine with just totally if it comes to it, just having a total ban of Canadian products, and a total ban if Canada wants to ban the American products in Canada, and Trump will ban all the Canadian products in America. I think Trump will be fine with that, I think, if he did the calculations correctly. That's kind of like the general gist of tariffs. They're a thing, they work to an extent, and create some pain, but I think if you have a massive deficit with a country, you can do that. You can do that because you're forcing people to make decisions. Like people could also just choose to buy American made, for example, and avoid Canadian products. That's another option, but but if people aren't doing that, you can use the big hand of government to kind of guide them into that. That's what tariffs basically do. What else can I talk about? What else has been happening? Let me think. Yeah, I'm very well prepared with these videos. Huh? What else can maybe I'll leave it at that for now. I think those are the two main issues in regards to Trump. But so much other stuff has happened that I haven't talked about. That's probably too old to talk about, I guess. So I'll just leave it at this. I hope you enjoyed this little talk, little chat, and got some ideas from it. I like to hopefully bring some original kind of thoughts to people. I hope. I don't know. Hopefully that's what I'm doing. Thank you for listening, and all the best. Bye, guys.